Tony Gonsolin has rarely been the hero we wanted, but he's almost always been the hero we needed, and that was never more true than today. He made his triumphant return. Let's talk about it live on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, and thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Wednesday evening. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. I am Jeff Snider. That guy next to me is Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we bring you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And Vince, Tony Gonsolin made his triumphant return. We're going to talk about that in a second. Also, the Dodgers have scored 51 runs in their 5-game winning streak. Does it matter that it's been against bad teams? We'll talk about that in the second segment. And then Tommy Edman rolled his ankle a little bit. Max Muncy finally hit a home run. Clayton Kershaw made another rehab start. We'll dig into all of that in the third segment. But first, Tony Gonsolin is the story of the day. It was a weird game, Vince. And I kind of joked about it in our post-game short that, like, this felt like 8 different games in one, because you got Tony Gonsolin's return. You got Max Muncy finally hitting a home run. You've got the Marlins just absolutely forgetting how to play defense in any way, shape, or form, and you got the Dodgers offense, clicking on pretty much all cylinders. But with all of that going on, Tony Gonsolin is still the big story because hadn't pitched in 20 months. And we expected him to be solid. We expect Tony Gonsolin overall throughout his big league career, other than when he was hurt in 2023, he's been very good every time he's been pitching. And so we're not that we're surprised, but anytime a guy comes back after 20 months on the shelf and pitches as well as he did today, it's, if not a surprise, it's at least a pleasant bonus.
Yeah. As life as a Dodger fan and kind of thinking, or I guess as any team, a fan of any team, but Dodgers, that's the team we watch. It feels like when guys come off injury or long-time injury, they seem to do well against the Dodgers. And when the Dodgers have guys come off injury, they don't. And then this series, you had Sandy Alcantara, who came off injury and didn't pitch well against the Dodgers. And you had a Dodger pitcher come off injury and pitch very well. And I think with Gonsolin, Roberts talked about it before the game a little bit, kind of saying that they felt Tony was going to be ready. They expected him to get into the 6th inning because he said the feel was there. And obviously – with Gonsolin, I think ramping up at the end of last season for a potential chance of being on the roster or helping the Dodgers in the playoffs, I think that was huge for like the development of Gonsolin coming back from injury, because you kind of had to try to get right away. And, then you have a full off season where you feel back to normal. And then, obviously the injury in spring training didn't help, but his arm was ready to go. He didn't hurt his arm in spring. It was his foot. So his arm's been ready to go. And you saw that today. Other than, a home run that he gave up and, Dodgers didn't help him out for the 3rd run, but he looked really good.
Yeah, Josh Stowers for the Marlins is the best hitter against breaking balls in baseball, and he showed that today. He, Gonsolin would get ahead of him with fastballs, and then, but you can't just throw fastballs. You got, and he made him pay. Other than that, though, yeah, it was really, really good. And like you said, the fact that he was almost ready to come back last year. And then he had a full spring training. Basically, he didn't get hurt till the very end of spring training. So he had a full spring training. And so even though this was his first time pitch, and then he had a relatively lengthy rehab, actually, even though I think a lot of us were like, instead of a bullpen game every week, can't we just get Tony Gonsolin? But I think we're seeing why. Like, they wanted a fully ready to go Tony Gonsolin, because you can't make impetuous decisions or panicky decisions in April when your plan is to win the last game in October or November, whenever it is. And so I think we saw the results of that today, of the Dodgers being patient with Gonsolin's rehab. They're doing the same thing with Clayton Kershaw right now, which we'll talk about in the third segment. They don't really have a choice with Kershaw because he's not eligible to come off the IL for another 17 days. But with Gonsolin, they had a choice. They could have rushed him back. Like I think the version of Tony Gonsolin we saw 2 rehab starts ago probably could have contributed to this Dodger team. But what they wanted was a guy who wasn't just going to contribute, but was going to like slot in perfectly in, like he fits in perfectly in a good starting rotation.
Yeah, we got Gonsolin, efficiency right away. He went to 6 innings and just had 77 pitches. On those 77 pitches, he got 17 swings and misses. Like there was a lot to like from Gonsolin here. The 9 strikeouts, there's always going to be, who you're facing, but other Dodger pitchers faced the same lineup and didn't have the same success that he had. Overall, the Dodgers had decent enough success from starting pitching, but it was exactly what you could have hoped for. And when you kind of break it down into how he got the swings and misses and what was working for him, it was a lot. He got 4 swings and misses off the fastball. He got 6 off the slider, 5 off the splitter, and even picked up 2 off the curveball. Velocity was there. He touched, I think 95 at one point. That's kind of where he sat when he was going at his best anyways. And there was just a lot to like and a lot to bring to this team right now because they are down 2 starters from their original 5. They're going to have, a busy month where they don't necessarily have room for air and might have to go to a 6-man rotation. And for Tony Gonsolin to kind of slot in right now, it's the perfect time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the 4-pitch mix working, having at least decent command of all the pitches. And again, this is his first time pitching in a game that matters in 20 months. And so the fact that we got a quality start out of him, and really like that 3rd run probably shouldn't have scored. Andy Pie probably should have played that for a single rather than going for the dive. And, it probably should have been 2 runs, but even 3 runs, 6 innings and 3 runs. This Dodgers team with this offense should win every time their starter gives them a quality start like that. The actual statistic quality start. And, it's, you said he hit 95. He wasn't a fireballer. I remember when he was in the minors, he did occasionally hit 98, 99, but that wasn't his game. He's always been a low to mid 90s guy who with command and a lot of pitches and good movement and all that stuff. It was just so good to see him out there. And I do think, like I hinted at the beginning, like I feel like Tony Gonsolin has been so undervalued around the years. You look at his career stats and other than when he was injured, when he was pitching through injury because the Dodgers had no other options in 2023. And it was a win-win. He got a couple $1 million bonus for incentives in his contract. So, but also he did it because the Dodgers needed him to. Other than that time, like he has been somewhere between solid and excellent all the time. And the fact that he is just almost an afterthought in this Dodgers rotation kind of tells you about the depth of this rotation, which is being tested right now, but the depth is still there.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely undervalued him just in general. We talked about you remember the negatives. I remember not great postseason performances. I remember, 2023 being kind of annoyed until we figured out he was hurt. I remember, I think he gave up a couple runs in the All-Star game that year. He was an All-Star. So you remember that type of stuff, but he's been good. It's not flashy, but it doesn't need to be, and it gets the job done. And when he's efficient, it's hard to hit him because his pitches, his splitter is nasty. When he's able to, mix in the fastball and place it, he's a guy that can really help out this Dodger team. And, there's a reason why before he got hurt, we weren't sure what the Dodgers were going to do because Dustin May had looked good in the spring. Gonsolin had looked good in the spring. They had the 4 other guys that were originally in the rotation, and we had no idea what they were going to do. It's worked itself out a little bit at this point, and then, the Dodgers just kind of extend that shelf life of, okay, we don't need to make a decision on which 5-6 starters we're going to have because everything kind of keeps getting pushed back. Blake Snell's not throwing for a couple weeks. Glasnow's not throwing for a couple weeks. They're going to take probably a month to get back after that fact. Kershaw's going to be back in 3 weeks, and then they could go to a 5-man. So, yeah, it's all worked out, and Tony Gonsolin is going to help keep that working out.
Absolutely. Another thing that worked out is the Dodgers offense. They scored 34 runs in this series. They've scored 51 runs in their 5-game winning streak. All 5 of those games have come against bad teams, specifically not the best pitching. We're going to talk about why that doesn't really matter to us. So thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Look, I told you last week I might have become the best dad ever. I was talking to my teenage sons and I said, did you know that you could play Xbox on the Fire TV stick? They didn't believe me. They thought I was just trying to be cool, but it really was true. I explained you can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Why does this matter to my sons? Well, we go on a lot of road trips from our house here in Utah down to California, where my parents and the Dodgers live. We're actually going up to Idaho for a baseball tournament next week. They always bring the Fire TV stick because our car has Wi-Fi and TV screens and an HDMI port, so they're already used to watching Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, and all the other streaming services in the car. A far cry from my Walkman that I had when I was their age. All of this applies to you too. A Fire TV stick can be an absolute game changer for your entertainment needs because you can play video games anywhere. You can plug in a Fire TV Stick 4K. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. Hey, we are back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being an everydayer if you are. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Know that we truly appreciate it. Remember, you can go be on the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can text directly with us, get our text updates throughout the day before the podcast, and get access to our exclusive Discord server where you can talk Dodgers with other Locked On Dodgers fans. It's a lot of fun, so check that out at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. And for your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. With that said, Vince, the Dodgers offense clicked. And we said after the Paul Skeens game, you've got 2 more games against the Pirates and 3 games against the Marlins. If there is ever a time for an offense to get right, this is it. And, I saw Richie in the chat earlier, kind of a darn if you do, darn if you don't situation where, if the Dodgers had struggled against these bad pitching, this guy would have been falling. But they didn't struggle. They dominated. And there is kind of a tendency to say, yeah, but it's just the Pirates and Marlins. And for me, and I'm interested to know if you feel the same, Vince, I don't care. The Pirates and Marlins are who was on the schedule. We know that this Dodgers offense can hit major league pitching, including good major league pitching, even just the list of guys they've already beat this year. They can do it. Yes, they're not going to score 15 runs the next time they face Paul Skeens, probably. Maybe they will. But I'd probably, if I was a betting man, I'd probably put money on Skeens holding them to less than 15 runs. But you know what? If they can score 5 runs, they can win that game. If he goes up against Yamamoto again, maybe 4 runs wins the game, maybe 3. And it's just all of these guys who had been struggling, a lot of them now aren't. Shohei Ohtani has had good games recently. Mookie Betts looks like he's breaking out of it. And while, yes, these are bad pitching teams, that's bad by the standards of major league pitching. These aren't minor leaguers. These aren't little leaguers. These are major league pitchers who they're getting these hits off of. And yeah, even if the Marlins have a 6 ERA as a team, the Dodgers scored 11.5 runs per game against the Marlins. And so that's still a lot more than even the Marlins usually give up.
Yeah. And, like I said, if they had only scored 5 runs a game, we'd probably be like, man, that's, annoying. They had only scored less than that. It'd be even more annoying. So it's one of those things where the Dodgers offense is doing what it needed to do. They put the team ahead yesterday in order for the bullpen to feel more comfortable. The guys in the bullpen game feel more comfortable with those strikes. That was a big benefit. That was the offense helping out the bullpen game. Today, Gonsolin, not necessarily, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Gonsolin probably a little nervous. By the time that Gonsolin got up for the 4th inning, the Dodgers were up 4-0. It's beneficial to score runs, hot take, but it is. And for the Dodgers, sometimes we say confidence is a thing. And if you are struggling with your confidence and then you all of a sudden have a 3-game series where you get 5-6 hits and, maybe put a ball over the fence, like a la Max Muncy or something like that, you might start feeling better about yourself. Might go up there with confidence. You might go up there with more of a plan, like, okay, I'm looking for this specific pitch, which is kind of what Roberts has talked about, why they've struggled. Guys going up there without a plan, just kind of swinging away. That's why the walks were down for a while. Maybe they'll pick back up now. And I think that's the biggest thing is, even if it is bad pitching, the Dodgers were getting shut down by bad pitching before too.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they head into a series against a real team, if you want to, say it that way. The Braves have had a resurgence. They're back up around 500 now after starting the season really terribly, including getting swept by the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. And they had the Dodgers probably won't score 11.5 runs a game against the Braves because the Braves are a better team. But the way this offense is playing right now, I expect them to put up 5 or 6 runs a game. And the way this pitching staff is, that should be enough to win a game. And, maybe they don't sweep the Braves. Maybe they do, though. I think the Dodgers are a better team than the Braves. And, that doesn't always
the Braves
matter.
lost to the Rockies.
Yeah. Lost 2-1 to the Rockies, not even just at Coors Field. The Braves put up 1 run in a full game against the Rockies pitching at Coors Field. This team can be beat. Absolutely. And the Rockies are up to 5 wins on the season now. So congratulations to our buddy Paul Holden over at Locked On Rockies. He's got to be feeling great now that his team is up to 5-25 and pulled to within 15.5 games of the division leading Dodgers. So, anything can happen. But yeah, this offense, obviously there's guys who are still struggling. And maybe Michael Conforto right now, we're not going to spend a whole segment on him. 2 more double plays today. He's now on pace for 31 double plays grounded into this year. The Dodgers record is 27. Of course, and that was Carl Furillo in 1956 and Eric Karros in 1996. The difference is both of those guys were good hitters overall, and so they stayed in the lineup and kept getting opportunities. If Michael Conforto doesn't start hitting better, he won't get the opportunity to match that record or pass it. Hopefully he just starts hitting better and doesn't hit into as many double plays. It's been ridiculous. I counted up. He's had 17 double play opportunities this year where he's up with a runner on first and less than 2 outs, and he's grounded into 6 double plays. That is more than a third of the time that he can possibly hit into a double play he has.
And 2 games with 2 double plays. So it comes in bunches. He's not, he starts the game off with a good defensive play and then ends up dropping one later that it ended up being okay because he ended up getting out a second. But yeah, it's one of those things where, Roberts didn't talk as long before the game. I kind of wanted to ask him, I haven't seen anyone ask him yet, and maybe I missed it if they did, but just kind of have you talked to him? Is there anything, I know they moved him down to 9. They did
say the other day that Roberts had a conversation with Conforto and told him, "You're my man. You're my guy. I'm going to stick with you." Of course, it was 3 innings after they were talking about that conversation. Then they pinch hit for him with Kike, and Kike hit a home run. And then the next day, Conforto had the day off. So it's not an unconditional, "You're my guy. I'm still going to take you out when we need a good hitter," actually.
Yeah. I mean, Kike, he's had limited opportunities the last few games. He's starting to hit singles now, not just homers, but he did have that big homer a few games ago. So it just kind of opens up, guys hitting opens up. Okay, now we can try different things. Kike's hitting more. Maybe Kike plays center field and Paez plays left, or either way, switch them, however you want to do it. Paez has been hitting. He moved up in the lineup a little bit. Not sure if they'll keep him there, but it's just a lot of different things happen when you start hitting, and it minimizes the guys that aren't good. Like Michael Conforto hasn't had a hit in 5 or 6 games, but the Dodgers won 5 of those games. And we're only talking about him because he hasn't had a hit in those 5 games and he was struggling before. But, I'm sure there's guys that didn't hit that great and go under the radar because the Dodgers are winning. Yeah,
I did start wondering if obviously Conforto can't be sent to the minors, but I started wondering if maybe he's going to have a strained quad or something, one of these nagging things that is bad enough that they can justify putting him on the IL just to go spend 2 weeks at Camelback Ranch, working on your swing, taking some swings on the backfields against live pitching, whatever, and give James Outman a shot, because Paez in left and Outman in center. And improves the defense for sure. And even if Outman is every bit as bad as he was last year, that's not any worse than the last 3 weeks of Michael Conforto. And, maybe Outman, because he has been very hot in AAA, maybe he does hit better. It seems like it might be time to give James Outman a couple weeks to see what can you do at the big league level. And obviously that would improve the defense in the outfield too.
Yeah, when we see a random torpedo bat appearance, a guy's looking for something. Muncy did it earlier in the season. So, yeah, maybe it's just one of those things where clear your mind, reset, go take 500 hacks in Arizona and, maybe because the swing still looks good. I think it's more of an overall approach. But in his head, it might be his swing. It might look good to us, and for him, it's off. And
the crazy thing is he's still hitting the ball hard. Actually, it's just on the ground right at the second baseman every single time. And so it might be like he might be this close to figuring it out. And just, okay, those ground balls, turn them into line drives, and suddenly you're a good hitter again. Now, that is maybe the hardest this much to ever do, going from ground balls to line drives. But yeah, he might need that little break of no pressure, go, on the backfields, and your goal is to hit line drives every time. We'll see. Another guy who has improved the Dodgers outfield defense at times this year, but is also a Gold Glove second baseman, is Tommy Edman. He had the day off on Wednesday for actually the second time or 1.5 time this series. We found out it was because he tweaked his ankle. Dodgers don't seem too concerned. I wish that made me feel better. We'll talk about that. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances, because Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. There's a ton of surprising insights that you will discover when you start using Monarch, how much you're spending on specific things, make you a little bit smarter, spend more intelligently, or at least more intentionally. It's also, Monarch Money also makes managing money with your partner smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Hey, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for being a Locked On Dodgers insider. If you're not those things, you should be. You know how to do it. Also, for your second listen, after maybe if you want Locked On MLB, you could do that. Or you could check out Locked On MLB Game Night, also on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel, where they dig into every game all around the league with thoughts from the Locked On hosts from each of those teams. You'll see Vince and me on there, and it's a really good, quick way to get a rundown of what's going on throughout the league. So be sure to check that out. Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel and podcast feed. So Tommy Edman was out of the lineup on Wednesday. We didn't really know for sure, like you mentioned. Dave Roberts didn't talk for too long before the game. He also, it was before the lineup came out, and so we didn't know Edman was out. And so it wasn't until later, I think Vassay on the pregame shows, when we first found out why Edman was out of the lineup. It was because he tweaked his ankle in the 6th inning on Tuesday night. Doesn't seem very concerned about it. Dave Roberts doesn't seem very concerned about it. I think they just went with, since they have the day off on Thursday, give him the day off on Wednesday. So it's 2.5 full days of rest, and hopefully be back in the lineup on Friday. There's just always this nagging feeling as a Dodger fan when somebody has a little minor injury that isn't going to keep him out very long. And every once in a while, those injuries end up being a little bit more serious than we were originally led to believe.
Yeah, I think it's, kind of a cycle of, okay, they're sitting him. It's probably precautionary. They, downplay it, and then precautionary becomes, okay, now he's out for a few games, and then sometimes that becomes an IL stint, and, same thing happened with Freddie. And honestly, it's one of those where if it always comes back to this. If it was October, would Tommy Edman have been in the lineup? Probably. Back when Freddie hurt his ankle when he fell in the shower, if it was October, would he have been in the lineup? Yeah, we saw it last year. Like, he was in the lineup with a pretty banged up body. So it's one of those things where you want to just hope that that's what it is, especially for Edman. Like, if there's anyone on this team that really holds it together, a little bit of the glue, it's Tommy Edman. And they can afford to have him go on the IL technically, but it's not something you really want to see.
Yeah, I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. I think I posted from our Locked On Dodgers Twitter account. I was watching the Locked On MLB game night the other day, and it was after Edman's walk-off hit on Monday night. And JD Hafron, who is the host of Locked On Cardinals, is also one of the co-hosts of the game night show. And just every time he has to talk about Tommy Edman, you can see the pain in his eyes about that trade. And at one point he said, and even like he was Tommy Two Bags with the Cardinals, now he's Tommy Tanks with the Dodgers. How come everybody just gets better with the Dodgers? And the funny thing is, like, Tommy Edman has hit a lot of home runs, but not like a ton of home runs with the Dodgers in his time. He is more of a Tommy Two Bags kind of guy, but he is occasionally taking 4 bags when he wants to. But yeah, like you said, yeah, he's just the catalyst. He's the guy who you can count on to do everything right defensively, put the bat on the ball. He can lay down a bump for you when you need one. Great base runner, very fast, all those things. Like, he's just kind of the complete player. He's, not the best on the team at very many things, but he's one of the best at all the things. And that's a very valuable player to have. And so, yeah, I really hope it is just a tweaked ankle and that he is back in there on Friday. Obviously, the Dodgers need him. They didn't necessarily need him against the Marlins. They do need him going forward, and I think that was their mindset in giving him the day off on Wednesday. Also on Wednesday, Max Muncy finally got his first home run of the season. He also had a triple, although the triple would have been a flyout if not for the sun, I guess. Like, it was the one misplay that wasn't by Jesus Sanchez in center field. This one was by the right fielder. Who was that? Wagaman, maybe? Still, a home run for Max Muncy has to feel good for him, hitting the ball hard, dead center, and cleared the wall by a fair amount. It wasn't a cheap shot. So that was nice to see from Muncy.
Yeah, especially, dead center. If you think of Max Muncy home runs, I'd imagine you're thinking of him pulling one very far into the right field seats, or, the Napa homer a la 18th inning in 2018 World Series. You don't necessarily think too much of dead center. So that was good. See, like, off the bat, you knew, like, the center fielder turned around and ran, but after a while, he's like, there's no reason for me to run anymore. And then, we had they asked, did they throw a whole bag of seeds at you? It felt like you had Freddie Freeman when he was rounding the bases, kind of pointing up to the sky and just like, thank you, Max. Mookie Betts gave him a big hug. And, Muncy talked about it after the game, kind of saying, like, I think I needed that. He's been going through a rough time. His family, which I would imagine is because of Max Muncy struggling, that, people don't like to be the nicest sometimes to people especially if they're struggling. We saw, the video of the fan yelling at him when he was walking on the bus. Like, I'm sure there's just a lot going on with him right now. I'm sure he regrets doing what he said he did in the offseason of trying to hit more grounders and lowering that, whatever it was that he tried to do. So it's just seeing all that culminate and hopefully, like, leads into, okay, now I'm Max Muncy again.
Yeah, and just go back to line drives. He's got enough power. The home runs will come. I hope he can just turn into a laser show over the next little bit. Other news from Wednesday, Clayton Kershaw made his third rehab start with Oklahoma City. It was supposed to be yesterday, but it got rained out. Pitched well, 5 innings, 65 pitches, gave up 3 runs. All 3 runs came on 2 home runs. One was to Luis Campusano, who has more power than 99% of big leaguers. So Campusano is always a guy who, if you hang a pitch to him, he's going to hit it really, really far. The other one, I can't remember who. I know it was another former big leaguer. I can't remember who it was, but it was Brasso, that guy who I remember Aroldis Chapman throwing at his head when he was on the Rays a few years back, and it started a brawl. But yeah, Brasso's got a lot of power too. So, obviously that's been Kershaw's MO a little bit the last several years. You can count on him to make a mistake or two every game and give up a home run on them. But other than that, he's good at limiting base runners. And that's basically what we saw. They were targeting 5 innings, 75 pitches. He got through 5 on 65 pitches. I'm not sure if he threw another handful of pitches in the bullpen or not, but probably not, because he's still got, like we said, 17 days left before he can come off the IL. So I don't think they're worried too much about him being built up, because he's going to be there, because he's got at least 2 or 3 more rehab starts before he can come off the IL anyway. Yeah,
I mean, he's more built up than, it was not even a couple weeks ago. He hadn't thrown any rehab game, and now he was throwing, 5 innings, 65 pitches. So that's good to see on that end. There's been a lot of talk about Kershaw and him coming back to the rotation, but they need a starting pitcher. He's been effective when healthy for the most part, especially in the regular season. So there's no worries or concern.
Yeah, once everybody's healthy, then you have those hard conversations about, okay, Kershaw, what is your role on this team? Where do you fit in quality-wise right now at this stage in your career? Right now, though, he's definitely better than a bullpen game. And that's what, when he comes back, the Dodgers are going to need him. How long will they need him? That depends on Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell and Shohei Ohtani and Emmett Sheehan and whoever else. But right now they need him. And if they still didn't have 17 days before he was eligible to come off the AL, he might be in the big leagues right now, the way he's pitching. But I think overall it'll be just like with Gonsolin. They'll be glad that they were kind of forced to let him build all the way up, get to the point where when he does come in, it's not going to be, well, we're hoping to get 4 innings from him. It's his first start back. No, they're going to come in expecting 6 innings. And that is what this bullpen needs, is an entire rotation of pitchers who Dodgers can expect 6 innings. And when they don't get 6 innings, it's a surprise rather than the norm.
Yep. And we're getting close to time here, but Austin Barnes' name has been said a lot on the right side of our screen, which is where the chat is going on. Austin Barnes got 3 hits. We talked about, I said that his the ceiling for him was a single, and he did that, but he did 3 times. Oh,
that's right. There wasn't a double. There was one that he took a wide turnaround first. I was listening on the radio at the time, and like the way that Tim Neverett called it, I was thinking it was a double, and so my mind had already registered double. So yeah, singles, but came close to a grand slam, I guess. He hit one foul down the line and came close. I think the one that the third baseman caught, his 4th.
That was his hardest hit of the day.
That probably would have been a double if it had gotten over the third baseman's head. So, hey, if Austin Barnes has to play, I will absolutely take 3 singles from him every time he plays. No double plays. So, yeah, good game for Barnesy. Happy for him.
Yeah.
So Dodgers have the day off tomorrow, and then they head to Atlanta for a weekend series against the Braves. I don't actually know what the Dodgers pitching plan is for Sunday. Maybe we'll dig into that a little bit tomorrow, because that would have been Tyler Glasnow's spot, but obviously it won't be him. So we'll have an off day episode tomorrow, so plenty to talk about there. We'll dig into the weekend pitching plans and a lot more. You got anything else for today, Vince?
Got nothing else.
Well, thank you all for being with us. Thanks for being with us live. Good chat going on. We appreciate all of you. If you're listening later, we appreciate you just as much. Remember, you can subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. That'll make it easier for you to become an everydayer. You can also check out Locked On MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you get podcasts. Like I said, it's a good rundown of everything that goes on every day in Major League Baseball. You can go beyond the podcast to become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSince91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to